No rest for the weary. A blizzard is going to be making its way through the Great Lakes region come this weekend. It could bring heavy snow, strong winds, as well as major travel impacts. In this video, we're going to talk about exactly what constitutes a blizzard and break down the impacts with this blizzard, and then also the Arctic air that is coming for next week. The time is 8:32 a.m. and it is January 10th. Another update from Great Lakes weather, and this one is going to be a pretty significant one because we are dealing with a major winter storm that's going to be on its way for the Great Lakes region come this weekend. And I think we could reach blizzard potential with this as well. And I'm going to talk about exactly why I think so. So we're going to get right to it. This, again, is the Weather Prediction Center's precip guidance. Okay, this is the probability of greater than 1 inch of snowfall through Saturday. Okay, so what is the chances that we will see that? And the chances, again, are pretty much guaranteed if you didn't notice from the dark shade of red that is sitting over much of southern Michigan at this current moment, northern Indiana as well. So again, this is the probability of greater than 2 inches of snowfall between now and Saturday. And again, the snow is probably going to continue as we get past Friday as well. Okay, so there's going to be quite a bit of snow accumulation. All right, and this is only through 7 a.m. on Saturday, okay, and I think there's going to be some lake effect snow behind it as well. Here's for greater than a foot of snow, all right, and again, this is from the Weather Prediction Center. They are saying that there could be greater than a foot of snow across areas just north of Kalamazoo all the way up towards Midland, Grand Rapids, up towards Huron National Forest, all those different places, and then areas to the south and east still have a lower but a possibility of exceeding greater than 12 inches of snowfall. And there's also a chance for greater than 18 inches of snowfall in some places across western Michigan as well. So there is a lot of snow on the way, and there might even be a throw-in of some wintry mix there as well. Okay, and again, we are going to be dealing with that Arctic air that's going to be making its way through. This is from the Climate Prediction Center for 8 to 14 days out, and you can see that they're forecasting a high risk of hazardous temperatures, cold temperatures, between the 17th and the 20th. Okay, so there's going to be very cold temperatures, sub-zero wind chills, and we're going to break that down with the latest weather models right now. Okay, so what is causing this setup for this upcoming winter storm? You can see it right here. Okay, it's going to be developing around let's say 4 p.m. on Thursday. You can kind of see that low beginning to develop over parts of northern Texas. It'll make its way surging up to the northeast. It's kind of taking a similar track to what we saw with the storm that we had just yesterday, and it's kind of continuing in some places today. But it's going to continue to the northeast, and by the time we get to 1 p.m. on Friday, it's going to start to impact much of northern Indiana, southern Michigan. Looks quite similar to the storm that we saw yesterday. And though it does look similar, there is going to be more of a snow component to this. In fact, quite a bit heavier snow with this, particularly across northern Indiana and southern Michigan. You can see that dark shade of purple. That is implying heavy snow in that particular region. Okay, and there will be much colder air on the backside of this as well, which again I've kind of stated again. It's going to be a pretty intense next couple days with this storm. All right, so again, this is what we call a mid-latitude cyclone. What exactly is a mid-latitude cyclone? Well, a mid-latitude cyclone is, well, an enormous weather system that develops most often during the winter season. Okay, so it's something that we commonly see during this time of the year. Some of them are stronger than others. In this case, this one is one that is stronger. Okay, it's responsible for that late and early season severe weather. Again, you saw that tornado outbreak in the Dixie or along the Florida Panhandle and parts of Florida as well. Alabama got hit by a tornado too. Places along the Gulf saw that severe weather associated with that mid-latitude cyclone we had yesterday. And it's also responsible for the blizzards, hence potential for a blizzard that we have coming on Friday. Okay, it's an extremely deep low pressure system that forms due to a temperature difference between the North Pole and the equator, and that is something that we are seeing at the current moment. Okay, high temperature difference. In fact, the polar vortex is going to be dipping down from the north, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And it commonly forms in Gulf of Mexico, East Coast, and the eastern Rocky Mountains. So those are where they form, and then that's how they progress later on. Okay, so intense winter weather, that's what we normally see with these. That's what, I think there was a question earlier this week about a mid-latitude cyclone. That is kind of the look that it has too on it. It looks like a comma. Okay, the stronger ones typically look like a comma. So let's take a look at the models now, dive right into it. Now, what is causing this mid-latitude cyclone to form? Remember, it's a temperature difference between the North Pole and the equator. And again, the polar vortex is actually going to be surging down from from the north. Obviously, it's from the north. Later on this week, okay, you have a ridge building in the polar regions, and that is actually going to send the colder air much farther down south. This right here is that trough that is going to bring us our weather system, our low pressure that will form the mid-latitude cyclone, okay? And that will progress and continue and start to bring much colder temperatures as early as Sunday potentially. Okay, so our temperatures will drop down into the teens, then eventually into the single digits, and in some cases it may reach sub-zero levels. And this polar air is going to stick with us for much of the week. You can see that this polar air, this polar trough that's dipping down, is going to continue to kind of sit over northern parts of the Great Lakes region for an extended period of time as that ridge continues to sit over the polar regions. Then it'll eventually shift out to the east. We'll start to see a bit of a warming trend as we get into mid-January, get that January thaw in here, and then we might see a return of that polar air later on following. Again, we have a lot of different global factors coming into place that kind of make this possible, so it's a very unique setup for this weather system. And I mean, it's not too uncommon for us to see cooler air as we get into portions of winter, but again, a lot of the global oscillations that we have are contributing to this threat. All right, so now let's talk this storm. So we have that low pressure system that's going to be following along with that deepening trough, that polar trough that's moving in. It will bring heavy snow across portions of western Michigan, northern Michigan, and northwestern Indiana. Southeastern Michigan is still a question. You will still get a decent amount of snow from this, but you may not get as much because there is the current potential that you might see a bit of rainfall on the southeastern side of this. You still have that warm sector that's going to be on the eastern side of the low, and that warm air might be pulled in enough to bring some rainfall or some wintry mix with this system as well. We're going to zoom in a little bit on the system as it makes its way in around Friday. So this is Friday at 7 a.m. You can see that there's a mix of wintry precipitation and snow across central and northern Indiana. It is likely going to remain snow for an extended period of time across Michigan and northern Indiana before we see a slight transition over to rain later on. Okay, now you can see that as that low deepens over southern Indiana, that mixed precipitation continues across northern Indiana, and that heavy snow really makes its way up into southern Michigan. The confidence with us receiving a lot of snow in this region is pretty high, I will say. It's not likely going to be rain this time like it was yesterday. So this is 7 p.m. on Saturday. You can see that that low is pretty deep and could contribute to some wind gusts of 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. And again, kind of part of the reason why I'm talking about blizzard potential. Not saying it's a blizzard just yet. There's still some things to be put together with regards to what the sustained winds will look like, but it is something that we're going to keep track of as this system moves on through. And again, that low gets down to about 970 millibars. A deeper low, the deepest low we had, like the Christmas blizzard we had last year, was about 962 millibars. So it's not as deep as that blizzard, but this still could reach blizzard potential. It does get down, according to the Euro, to 968, which is still pretty low. And on the back side of this, we're not just dealing with the system snow, we're also going to be dealing with the lake effect snow on the back side as well. So the travel impacts from this will be pretty decent. You're going to want to take extra care. You definitely will want to avoid being on the roads Friday and Saturday. Not going to be a good day to be out in those during these conditions. Here are the potential for wind gusts of 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour being depicted by the Euro model across northern Ohio, eastern Indiana. Again, Ohio is probably going to mainly see rain. There might be a little bit of snow in northwestern Indiana. On the back side of this, you will see snow. The question is how much. You probably won't see too much on the back side of this, but you could still see some of that lake effect. Time will have to tell how much snow you'll receive across western Ohio. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. I want to go over what constitutes a blizzard real quick, just so you know, if there happens to be a blizzard warning issued for this, what is the National Weather Service saying could be possible with this. I can't say there's going to be a blizzard. I will say there are some conditions set up that are favorable for the potential for a blizzard, but this is what makes a blizzard. Okay, in order to be classified as a blizzard, your winds have to be sustained at 35 miles per hour or more. Okay, so that doesn't mean wind gusts. That means they have to be sustained winds. The winds have to continually be at 35 miles per hour, and then the gusts can be 40, 50 miles per hour, or something along those lines. Okay, visibility must be at or below a quarter of a mile. Okay, so if it's a quarter of a mile or less, and that'll be associated with the whiteout conditions that we could see with this snow, that will constitute the potential for a blizzard. And that potential must last 3 hours or more. Notice here that with a blizzard, it doesn't even talk about snow. You don't necessarily need snow to have a blizzard. You could have maybe just an inch. Well, you do need something that will reduce the visibility, which would be snow for sure. Okay, but that blizzard must last, or that blizzard could last with only 1 or 2 inches of snow, and it lasts about 3 hours or more. Okay, that is what is constituting a blizzard. And then this is kind of just a map showing you the different warnings and watches that you could possibly have with this with a setup like this. So that's just showing blizzard warnings usually appear in red whenever you look at them, but you don't really need to have snowfall in order to have a blizzard. You just need snow and then these conditions that are put down right here. Now let's talk about first of all, the snow accumulations. We'll come back to this as well. Here are the different models talking about the snow accumulations. We're only going to go up until 7 p.m. on Saturday, and that's also including a portion of the lake effect snow that we could see. And you'll notice that southern Ohio, southern Indiana, yeah, you're kind of going to be down for the count with regards to snow totals. Snow totals again are going to be focused farthest to the north, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, northern Michigan as well. And you can see the snowfall totals that are currently being depicted by the models are pretty decent. Now, I'm not going to say these are confirmed for certain, but I would not be surprised to see some places get a foot or more of snow across western and northern Michigan especially. Now, there are still going to be some heavy snow potential for parts of central, south central, and southeastern Michigan. Now, the thing is, though, with that rain potential that we have on the eastern side with that warm sector that's going to be coming through, you may not have some places seeing as much snow as places farther to the west. So that is what is going to be where I'm going to have to watch out for as those models change with this upcoming system. Here are some comparisons. Again, there are some models that are playing it a little bit farther east, so there's still some concerns about track. But the confidence between all the models is there that Michigan is going to receive widespread heavy snowfall, and also even portions of northern Indiana as well. The GFS plays out the most strongest amount of totals, and again, I think those totals are still going to be a little too high for our assessment, so keep that in mind. But still, widespread heavy snowfall appears to be the possibility across portions of Michigan at this point. We're going to be dealing with some cold temperatures on the backside of the system too, and we'll get right to that. Let's blast right through until we see the passage of that storm. You can see that low pressure system. There's that warm sector I was talking about with temperatures above 30 degrees that could bring some rainfall to southeastern Michigan. And then you have that cold air wraparound. And the cold air down into southern Indiana. It's going to be colder in southern Indiana than it's going to be in Detroit around Saturday or late Friday night. Okay, so that's going to be some very cold air that's wrapping around this system. It is a strong low, deepening low. You've got that warm air still kind of being pulled in. You can really see that cyclonic nature with the low just by looking at the temperature graphic. And then as it passes through, as we get into Saturday, you can see wind chills will drop down to the single digits across much of the Great Lakes region. Pretty much all of the Great Lakes region will start seeing these colder temperatures. And as that continues to move through, that Arctic air will make its way in. By early Sunday morning, we'll have some wind chills in the negatives, maybe even in the negative teens in some places. And as it progresses forward, as we get into Sunday night into Monday, you can see that those wind chills, again, keep in mind these are wind chills, not temperatures, but you can see that those wind chills are still down in the sub-zero levels and will remain in the sub-zero levels for the next few days and may get pretty stinking cold, not going to lie. So, again, I remember a few years ago having that very cold air making its way through Cedarville, Ohio around January, my sophomore year down there, and we got down to wind chills of negative 30, negative 35. This is pretty close to that. So it's going to be awfully cold across portions of southern Ohio, southern Indiana, and then getting up into northern Michigan as well. Thankfully, the lake will keep things in Michigan a little bit warmer, but still cold, super cold, and things that could cause potential for frostbite and dangerous conditions if you get caught somewhere. So I want to give a little bit of a safety message with regards to this setup for winter weather. If you happen to get caught in a car, there's some things you should probably know. If you watched my video about vehicle pileups, this is also something I went into a little bit of detail about. But what should you do when you get caught in a car? First of all, keep your vehicle's dome light on, okay, so that people can see inside the car if you need help or something like that. That's a good thing to do, and just in case you get stuck in a car. Also, avoid continually running the car. Now, you may want to run the car to stay warm, but keep in mind, where is that carbon monoxide going that is being emitted out of the backside of the car? That's something you want to keep in mind if you get stuck in a car, okay? You want to keep a window cracked for ventilation to make sure that that carbon monoxide gets out and that oxygen is flowing in, despite the fact that it's cold. And don't run the car continually. Like, run it every once in a while when it gets cold. That's what I would recommend, okay? Move around in the car while stranded. You want to make sure you stay moving. You don't want to get tired while you're in the car. You don't want to fall asleep in a situation where you're stuck in a car. Stay awake unless you're with others, or take sleep shifts, okay? It's also important that you keep an extra flashlight, maybe some food, water, something you hear from the National Weather Service all the time. There's going to be some pretty decent impacts from this system that's going to be making its way on Friday, okay? I'm even concerned about chasing this on Friday because just how much snow there's going to be. I will probably be local in places across southwest Michigan, but it's definitely important that you stay safe in these conditions. It may not even be safe to chase. I don't really want to cause too many problems. I don't want to be an impact on the roadways if things go sour. So keep that in mind. Dangerous snowfall potential with this, and also some cold air coming on the backside. Saturday morning, I will be out doing some things. I will be prepared to go out and face this system, but I'm going to be doing something fun with a couple friends, so you can join me for that live stream. Will probably live stream Friday afternoon, but with extra caution. So make sure to subscribe, stay updated. Going to be a pretty dangerous storm that we have coming Friday. You're going to want to take extra caution. Don't want to be out on the roads. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Not going to be a good event. And I know I'm not usually being as emphatic with my words, but this storm could be pretty decent. So just keep that in mind. Just stay safe out there, and I will try to provide updates as needed. See you all next time.